The historic City Hall in Cape Town. City Hall is now officially a precinct for Tonight, a press at a historic city hall in Cape Town. In Section 2 of the powers, privileges, and immunities of
host the
1994, South Africans from all walks of life voted for the first time to bring a new democratic government into office, marking the beginning of a new era of a shared vision of a democratic and free, non-racial and equal society. This was a momentous occasion that the world watched in awe and great anticipation, representing a far-reaching transition from a difficult past. As we approach April 2024, it will mark 30 years since the advent of democracy in South Africa and 12 years since the adoption of the National Development Plan 2030. As you have mentioned, Shisla Mariso, indeed, this moment is marked by the end of the term for the sixth administration of South Africa's democratic dispensation.
Do you have any?
I remember it as, yes, over and about because first time who first opportunity
To think that we
just the the second is is that young people don't seem to have able to be they vote quite literally to give young that opportunity.
A lot of coverage of and the hope and the chairperson of the
significant one. So a lot of people obviously are looking forward to this. The top of, I'm interested in hearing from him. Has been made on the parliament building.
Parliament have a critical parliament, which is the public participation role or function,
Yes.
where there is an involvement of the Junior Guard of Honor. The Junior Guard of Honor, of course, will consist of 100 learners selected from 4 schools here in the Western Cape in collaboration with the Western Cape Department of Education. This will be schools such as Aero School, the Center of Science and Technology, Mfuleni Technical Academy, and Fairmont Secondary School. So those are the schools that we are expecting, and the Junior Guard of Honor will line up along the road where the President's motorcade will be passing through this afternoon.
Indeed, and they've also reinstated the eminent persons, and these are distinguished South Africans who have achieved outstanding results in their respective fields or have been recognized for their contributions to society. They are nominated by provincial speakers to be guests of Parliament for the State of the Nation address.
So there's a lot to look forward to here on Parliament TV this morning as we bring you the build-up to the State of the Nation address throughout the morning, later in the afternoon, and just before the President ascends the stage. So there's a lot to look forward to. Don't go away.
My name is Amy Philander. I'm 16 years old and I attend Fairmount Secondary School. Honestly, me and my fellow students at my school, we are elated to have this experience and to be fortunate enough to attend this Sona that happens once a year. We are so happy and so grateful for this opportunity. Some of the issues I would love the President to touch on is, well, South Africa, as it is a free country, it does have a lot of poverty. It has informal settlements and it has dirty water. It also has a lot of crime in it.
I would like him to like the job opportunities, poverty, like as in what? Like poverty as in job creation. Yes, job creation, and then like he can also save some food to people and people who stays outside. He can also save some food. Job opportunity, the most thing, because people are lack of job now. Yeah, I'm excited because I'm gonna meet him. If I can able to touch him, maybe I'll try. Thank you.
Being part of Sona, I feel very proud, and for my school too, because it was nominated to be part of Sona. I feel very proud and motivated because, like, we as a school, we are becoming more motivated. Even though we come from Khayelitsha, like we see ourselves in the upper positions. Like we do not limit ourselves. Like the being part of Sona gives us more motivation. Yeah. Since I am coming from Khayelitsha and crime is a big thing in Khayelitsha, and also unemployment because many people are unemployed and others are at home. Even though they have grade 12s, they are not at universities or colleges.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the last State of the Nation address of the 6th Parliament to a joint sitting of Parliament on Thursday, 8th February 2024. President financial year. Watch the address live across Parliament platforms at follow Parliament on social media and join commitment.
The State of the Address is called by the President in terms of the Constitution in order to give the nation an update on progress on government commitments while outlining government's program of action for the new financial year. It is a joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces, and is presided over jointly by the Speaker and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. The only item on the agenda is the President's speech.
Of course, the President delivers his Sona before Parliament because Parliament is charged with ensuring that the work flowing from the address This is the joy of live TV. We are just outside the City Hall where the arrangements for tonight are taking place. But now each of the Houses of Parliament are governed by a set of rules, and the joint sitting today will be governed by the joint rules which have recently been updated. I am joined now by the Secretary to the National Assembly, Mr. Symbolism, who is responsible for providing procedural advice to the National Assembly. Mr. Tasso, thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, and greetings.
Before we get into it, you hear reactions, people reacting to the President's address saying you could have just sent an email. Why is Sona so important? What's the significance of Sona, and why do we have it organized in this fashion?
The President is appearing before Parliament today as the head of state. He convened this because the Constitution does empower him to summon the two houses together. And of course, that is done in consultation and collaboration with Parliament. So here you are going to have the three arms of the state in one space: the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, not just at national level, also at provincial level. So all the provinces will be here, the speakers and the premiers. You'll also have local government, SALGA, in attendance. So the arms of the state and the spheres of government will be in attendance. So it can't just be a question of sending an email and say, this is what I wanted to say. The President must address the nation, and there will be an opportunity for members, honorable members, to interact with the President to respond to the issues that the President would have touched in his address, and then there will be a reply by the President after the debate has taken place, which will be next week. So it's a very significant occasion. I don't take it as an event. It's a very important program of government, of the state, because it's really about what has been done, what is being done, what are the plans for the future, especially as we reach 30 years of our democracy.
Yeah.
And this being the last State of the Nation address in the 6th Parliament before we get into elections. It's a very significant moment indeed for the Republic.
You've just touched on it. What's the significance of having all three arms under one roof?
Well, again, there's an element of checks and balances in the design of the state. We pass the laws. Of course, these are largely introduced by the executive. The executive makes policy, but we pass the laws. The executive must implement those laws. And the courts now and again have to assist in terms of interpreting those laws.
Constitutionality of those laws.
Yeah, constitutionality of those laws and enforcing adherence to the laws at any given point. So it's very significant that we have these arms of the state together in this kind of session.
Over and above the three arms of the state, in terms of procedure, who else must attend the State of the Nation?
Look, if we talk about must, I would say the judges, members of Parliament here, and I've already said about the provincial speakers and premiers. You know, when you say must, it's a bit difficult, but the other people have been invited. Yeah. Former president, former speakers have been invited, and some have obviously confirmed attendance. Others could not attend for various reasons. And diplomatic corps as well will be in attendance. And there will also be the public engagement process, where you have eminent people. You would also have, I think, youngsters. And there will also be Imbongi, which really is a very important statement in our republic, just to give emphasis, to put emphasis on the issues of our culture and who we are as South Africans. So it's a very important element of an occasion such as this one, to have your Imbongi and other participants playing a role. Yeah.
So coming to the address itself, there's only one item, which is the president addressing the nation. In terms of what takes place in the House, all members of Parliament are going to be present. Last year, we witnessed very unfortunate incidents while the president was addressing. And we know the National Assembly or Parliament has now updated the rules to try and mitigate against such unsavory incidents in the House. Can you take us through some of these rules and what they aim to achieve?
I think it's important for me to state what the intention with the rules is, and what the purpose of having rules is. It's really to regulate business, to ensure orderly transaction of business in the House. Rules are not there to stifle debate. Rules are not there to be used as this thing that is necessarily punitive, but rules are there to enable people's representatives to engage with matters and to engage each other in an orderly fashion. So one of the rules pertaining to today's session is that during this session, only the State of the Nation address is the item before the House, and no other business. And this is consistent with how Parliament is run. When you go to a sitting of a House, there will be an agenda, which we call orders of the day, and it is expected that the House will focus on those issues. But it was thought to just emphasize the point that this is the only item. So, and there's another rule that says that the president no member may interrupt the president while he delivers his address. And again, there is nothing unusual about that. It used to be a practice that, and everyone understood it like that, that members, no one should interrupt the president. But of course, we know in the recent past that there have been interruptions of the address of the president, and therefore the collective of members of Parliament thought it was necessary to make the point clearer that no one should interrupt the president while he addresses or she addresses the House. Now, the point that should be made as well is that there will be an opportunity for members to debate this address. There will be an opportunity for members, for the president to respond to the address in the course of next week. So there's really nothing untoward about this, but there's also another rule that says that the speaker or the chairperson, the presiding officer, may not be interrupted when addressing the House. And of course, we have seen previously that that has not been adhered to. And the rules continue to make that clear. These rules also clarify the procedure for points of order, and that the ruling of the presiding officer is final, may not be challenged, debated in the House, and of course, if a member has a difficulty with a ruling by the presiding officer, they have the right to write and ask for that matter to be discussed, the principle of the matter to be discussed by the Joint Rules Committee. You'll stop me when you want me to stop, but the point is that these rules are intended to enable the House to conduct its business properly.
In layman's terms, does it mean no one can raise a point of order, for instance, as soon as the president ascends the stage?
You know, let me first explain what points of order are meant to deal with.
Yeah.
Points of order are meant to deal with a breach of the rules, a breach of parliamentary procedure, a breach of parliamentary practice, or if there is something unparliamentary that another member does. And the rule says that a point of order must be raised immediately when that occurs. Now, the rules are specific that while the president addresses, I still am yet to understand what point of order would arise as the president speaks during the address. In fact, the court has even expressed itself on this matter. The judgment that came out, I think it was on Monday, if not Tuesday, says that the address by the president is what it is, address. Yeah. It's not a debate. It's not a deliberation. It's not an engagement, like interaction, or in the sense of this one speaks, the other one responds. It's an address. And the court said, the court does not believe this rule is stifling any form of that engagement or members' freedom of speech. And the court went on to state the obvious, that there would be an opportunity to interact with this thing. Look, you have presiding officers there who are pretty much experienced in terms of handling issues in the House. And if an eventuality would arise that is unforeseen, they will deal with that. But I thought I should explain what a point of order is, and so that we see whether there is a possibility that something like that will occur. But as I say, you have presiding officers there who are empowered to deal with matters that arise in the House, and I'm sure if any such would arise or could arise, the presiding officers would be in a position to deal with that in the best.
So should a member breach the rules? This for the benefit of viewers. Yeah. What happens thereafter? Is it someone being kicked out of the House and that's it, they can go home and come back tomorrow? What happens thereafter?
There are different avenues in the rules. The first one is that the Speaker would call the member to order. And it is expected of members to adhere to the calls by presiding officers. So a member complies, and we proceed with business. Let's say a member says something unparliamentary, and the presiding officer says, please withdraw that. And the member withdraws. Continue. No big deal. In the event that withdraw or to abide by the ruling of the presiding officer, then Rule 41, and I don't wish to be technical, Rule 41 says three things. That if a member deliberately breaches or a member deliberately disregards the authority of the presiding officer, or a member acts in a disorderly fashion, the presiding officer may direct that member to leave the House. So there are those three instances. So if a member does not comply, it is within the presiding officer's ability and to ask the member to leave the chamber. And again, members have left the chamber, and that's it. Business continues. Yeah. Let's say a member feels strongly about the point that they have raised, and they don't think they should withdraw it. The problem arises when there's non-compliance with the directives of the presiding officers, with the rules prescribed. Directive of the presiding officer.
That members are aware of?
No, should be aware because they adopted the rules. And I need to emphasize the point that what the presiding officers do there, they are empowered or even directed by the rules to do, because the rules now say that the presiding officers are responsible for the orderly conduct of business to make sure that the House transacts its business properly. So when the presiding officer says leave, it's not just out of anywhere. It's because the rules say this is the next step. When this happens, then this is the logical point that you must get to. So the member then leaves. Yeah. But if the member refuses, which again has happened, we may wish it didn't happen or it shouldn't happen, but it has happened, then the rule says, then the presiding officer calls the sergeant-at-arms or the usher of the Black Rod, because this is a joint sitting, to assist the member to leave the chamber. And again, the rules, I think, were intended that at that point the member would, cooperate and leave. But in the event that the member still refuses, then the rules say the next step is to call in protection services of Parliament to remove the member, and we have seen a lot of that. In the unfortunate event like we had last year, when then there's a potential prospect of violence occurring, or there's violence that occurs, the rules empower the presiding officer to suspend proceedings and to call security services, and then suspend proceedings in the process if there's violence or prospect of violence, and have the members removed. We always wish and hope that it never gets to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are in an election year. I have to ask you this. There's a likelihood for coalitions or a coalition government.
Okay.
Should that happen this year, for instance, it may be this election year or in the next 5 years, are the rules, the current rules, sufficient to handle that kind of a cooperation of different political parties and not one ruling party?
Parliament is a very dynamic entity. It's able to adapt, it's able to deal with situations. Even the rules are not, the rules can be amended, the rules can be revised. I can tell you now that in the current set of rules that were revised in December, there's provision for, in the definitions, for independent welcoming, because we know the law now says independents may come to Parliament. I can assure you that this institution, which has been able to handle different sets of circumstances, will handle that. I mean, at one point, generally when you had motions of no confidence, it was ordinary open voting. But at a given point, there was a call for secret ballot, which we had never experienced before. And we had to do that. And I think the institution acquitted itself very well. So all I'm saying is that this institution is very dynamic. It has been able to handle difficult situations. And I don't necessarily think this one is going to be a difficult one, because coalitions are there in our own country. Elsewhere, there are coalitions. And so we'll handle it. That's all I can tell you. We will handle it. The Parliament will handle it, because we've got collective wisdom in Parliament. Members of Parliament, they will be able to deal with those matters.
So let me thank you very much for making time to join us, and wishing you all the best with the rest of the arrangements for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the viewers.
I'm sure our viewers have learned something about the procedures and the rules governing the joint sitting of Parliament, and we are looking forward to 7 p.m. today for the President's address at 7 p.m. Stay tuned for more. This is Parliament TV.
The President will deliver the State of the Nation address on Thursday, the 8th February 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Cape Town City Hall. Watch the State of the Nation address 2024 live across Parliament's platforms. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Mna ndibona into yobana umongameli bangakhe asincedise somasishini abancinci nento nje encinci ukusibhusta siphakame njengoba ndingusomashishini osanduqala nebhizinesi ndiyenzayo yokuthengisa kule ndawo ndithengisa kuyo apha. Ngoba kukho abantu ke bayegranti bagrantayo badala, ingangcono into yobana ikhe ithiwe kancinci laa mali, ngoba ndinesingxaki nendoda abajongene nazo. Kule 30 years seyigqithile bengamahlali zodwa khakube loo nto intle kakhulu. Singoba singangobi. Ngoba ke okokuqala kukhona masinto eziye zibonelwe ngabantu esingezizinye. Like ndithetha njengoba ndithetha ngale ndawo ndihlala ngabantu abalityelweyo. Andazi noba ke ngaqwalasele loo ndawo. Ngoba kule ndawo sikuyo thina asinandlela, asinayisobla. Itanki eli lisaplaya abantu, bona kwezinye iilokishi noko, kwezinye iindawo bona banazo sakho, banazo izinto. Ngo-2024, hayi uvota ndizawuvota noxa ndingazi noba utshintsho luzoma khona okanye luzibamba.
igama ndingusangweni umhlikiti ndikwa-ward 30 ucendane phantsi komnquma municipality. Into endiyenzayo mna ndingumntu othengisa esitratweni, informal trader. Into endiyinqwenelayo ke mna upresident xa ethetha ngomhla we-8 kaFebruwari achaze into yokuba abantu abathengisa esitratweni sendawoni na esabo isabelo kulo rhulumente, kuba zonke ii-departments ziyakhutshelwa ii-budgets, kodwa thina abantu bathengisa esitratweni asiyiboni ethi ibhajethi uba iphelela phi na. Okunye okulandelayo apha zoba apha eGcuwa emnquma kwakukho iifektri zazikhona kulaa rhulumente kaMatanzima nokahulumisa. Aba bantu ke ngoku zathi ezo fektri zizawuvala, bonke abo bantu kuba be-unemployed bazogcwala apha ezitendini. Apha ezitendini ke ngoku kukho i-congestion, uxinana koluntu, and abantu abanamali yokuthenga. Esawuqala thina ukuvota siluluntu olumnyama ngo-1994. Ngoku wonke loo mathemba sasinawo, kuba sasamathemba amakhulu kakhulu. Sasisimba loo mini leyo sizawuthatha ebhotolweni, uyabona, kufana naseKanada apho kuthiwa lilizwe lobusi namasi. Sacokola njalo, kodwa namhlanje yonke loo minqweno yethu sasinayo itshabalele. Kodwa ke sekunjalo, ngedate ethe yabekwa upresidenti yovoto, ndizaphinda ndiyovota. Uba ndizawuvota yophi umbutho ke leyo yimfihlo yam ke leyo, andizuyithi paha.
Welcome back. You are still watching Parliament TV, and we are coming to you live from the City Hall here in Cape Town, where arrangements for the State of the Nation address are currently being finalized. Parliament announced on Tuesday, the 6th of February, that they had successfully accredited members from both local and international media for the coverage of the upcoming State of the Nation address. This year, 981 accreditation applications were received from various media representatives. Following a thorough and meticulous vetting process, a total of 893 bona fide members of the media have been approved to be present at the venue. If you were to see the buzz of the media in this place. This year, Parliament TV studio is located at the parade, which is known as the Media Square. And I can tell you the coverage of the State of the Nation address is extensive and encompasses all media formats, from television, radio, print, social media, in all its forms. As you can see outside, the leaders of Parliament and political parties and ordinary members are engaged in various interviews and will be for the next few hours leading into the afternoon and evening until the President arrives at the Cape Town City Hall. The participation of the media in the State of the Nation address is of utmost importance. It embodies the principles of openness, transparency, and accountability, which are foundational to our democracy. The media play an indispensable role in ensuring that the proceedings of the Sona are communicated effectively and accurately to the people of South Africa. Stay with Parliament TV as we take a look at this.
The State of the Nation address will be held on Thursday, the 8th of February, followed by 2 days of debate on 13 and 14 February, and concluding with the reply by the President on 15 February. The State of the Nation address, commonly referred to as Sona, is one of the most important annual events in the parliamentary calendar. It is an integral part of Parliament's oversight function over the executive. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using hashtag Sona2024. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Building our great South African nation together.
The mace is a symbol of the authority of the National Assembly. It is carried into the chamber by the Sergeant-at-Arms and announces the arrival of the Speaker of the National Assembly. It signifies that the House is formally in session and that its proceedings are official. Standing at 1.196 meters and weighing 9.86 kilograms, the current mace is a representation of South Africa's democracy. The new mace was designed to reflect the history, tradition, diversity, culture, and languages of South Africa. The mace also celebrates the country's natural beauty, its plant and animal life, and its rich mineral resources. Each element was carefully chosen with this in mind. Though it appears to be a single unit, the mace was made and fitted in sections on an aluminium core. At the head of the mace is an 18-karat gold drum covered in springbok skin, which in turn is attached to the drum by 18 buttons made from South African minerals and gemstones. On top of the drum rests a book made from gold on which, in raised text, is an extract from the preamble to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. The drum features images of South Africans going about their daily business. Some of the depictions that can be seen on the drum is a miner, saxophonist, machinist, architect, builder, soccer player, forklift driver, scientist, teacher, doctor, domestic worker, a woman with a baby on her back and a hoe in her hand, a woman driving a tractor, and children reading and working. The images are designed to look like African woodcuts and were chiseled by hand to create a three-dimensional look. The drum is fitted on a gold neck illustrated with dancing sand figures. 3 platinum discs in decreasing size connect the head of the mace to the shaft. The shaft is made of aluminium and inlaid with cherry and box wood. The top of the shaft is encircled by an 18-karat gold band with 6 black and 6 white half-carat diamonds set into it. Beneath this is the South African coat of arms in full-color enamel. 2/3 from the top of the mace is a beaded South African flag. The white on the flag is represented by 800 platinum or white gold beads, the yellow by 70 yellow gold beads, and the red, green, blue and black by colored glass beads. Before the mace tapers to the end is another gold band of 6 black and 6 white diamonds, and then another band of platinum. The shape of the mace recalls the Nobkiri, an African symbol of defense, authority and leadership. The drum, which forms the head of the mace, is an expression of the African tradition of using drums to call people together for a meeting. It's also a reminder that South Africa's transition to democracy was achieved through dialogue, with Parliament serving as a place where many different voices are heard. Gold is one of the core ingredients in the mace. Archaeological finds show that gold has been mined and used in African culture for centuries. Its use in the mace symbolizes the country's natural wealth and also the ancient indigenous gold mining traditions. The open book on top of the drum symbolizes the Constitution of South Africa and the principles around which Parliament functions. The Constitution is the supreme law of the country and plays a central role in the development of a new South Africa. This is echoed in its position at the top of the mace. The writing on the open pages of the book is the first line of the preamble to the Constitution in each of the 11 official languages and one line from an extinct Khoisan language. The platinum rings found at intervals along the shaft of the mace recall the rings worn by Ndebele women. Under the first set of platinum rings, at the base of the drum, is an image of 2 Khoisan taken from the Linton Stone, a world-famous example of South African rock art dating back at least 20,000 years. The image is a symbol of social interaction, coherence, and interdependence, all elements needed for a country such as South Africa to grow and prosper. The result of all this is a mace that recalls the past, mirrors the present, and looks forward to the future.
Building our great South African nation together.
The black rod is the symbol of the authority of the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. It derives its name from the ebony wood from which the rod is traditionally made. It is carried by the usher of the black rod in the ceremonial processions, such as during a sitting of the House. It is placed upright next to the presiding officer's chair as an indication that the House is formally in session. Similar to the mace, it resembles a nopkiri, an African symbol of defense, authority, and leadership. The black rod stands at a length of 1.1 meter and weighs 8 kilograms. The protea at the head of the black rod is South Africa's national flower. It has 2 rows of 9 handmade 18-karat gold leaves, each representing one of the 9 provinces. The inner core of the protea is made of pure silver and is finished in oxidized silver. The supporting disc below the protea is made of ebony and is connected to the shaft of the rod by 18-karat gold struts. Below the protea is a section of beadwork, which represents South Africa's diverse people and its rich cultural heritage. The shaft of the black rod is made of ebony, the South African coat of arms, made of pure silver and finished in color vitreous enameling, appears twice on the shaft. The shaft is also inlaid with 18-karat gold strips. 2 sets of clasping hands engraved by hand in 18-karat gold also appear on the shaft and symbolize freedom, peace, and cooperation. The national flag appears 3 times on the shaft. The flags are pure silver and are finished in vitreous enameling. 6 gold rings on the shaft of the black rod are made of 18-karat gold. When the National Council of Provinces is in session, the black rod stands in a drum. The drum is a symbol of the African tradition of using drums to call people together for a meeting. It is also symbolic of South Africa's achievement of democracy through dialogue. The drum is made of yellow wood, and the top is covered in springbok skin. Encircling the drum is a pure silver band engraved with images of rock paintings. Placed over these images are further images depicting elements of South Africa's 9 provincial coats of arms in coloured vitreous enamelling. From the northwest is a calabash gold. From the Free State is a cluster of Orange River lily flowers. From the Northern Cape is a thorn tree. From KwaZulu-Natal is the Strelitzia flower. From Mpumalanga is the red Barberton daisy. The Eastern Cape is represented by the red aloe, indigenous to the Eastern Cape. The Limpopo province is represented by the baobab tree. From Gauteng is the chemical symbol for iron. Lastly, the Western Cape representation is a bunch of grapes. All these come together to epitomize the unity that this nation represents.
The State of the Nation address is called in terms of Section 42.5 of the Constitution by the President of the Republic. It is a joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament and one of the rare occasions that brings together the three arms of the state under one roof.
This is an occasion of state as well as of Parliament. In South Africa, the great ceremonies of state is the inauguration of the President, is the receiving of a foreign head of state. It is the state funeral of a head of state. It is the swearing in of members of cabinet and the swearing in of members of Parliament. It is the investiture with national orders and the State of the Nation address. Of those ceremonies of the state, there are 4 where full ceremonial format is usually followed, and that is the inauguration of the President, that is the state opening of Parliament or the State of the Nation address to Parliament, and that is the state funeral of a head of state and receiving a foreign head of state.
The full ceremonial format includes full military honors by the South African National Defence Force, a red carpet, a national salute by the Ceremonial Guard, a salute flight by the South African Air Force, the national anthem, and a 21-gun salute. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Well, we have the rules in order to regulate business. The Constitution states that the legislature, which is Parliament, has the power to regulate its own business and to ensure that procedures, processes, and internal arrangements are in place so that members can conduct their business in an orderly function, but also to ensure a level of predictability in the manner things are done. And that's in essence why we have the rules. Well, State of the Nation Address has been convened in terms, among others, of Rule 7, Joint Rule 7. And that's important because each of the two houses has got a set of rules. But for a joint sitting, including the State of the Nation Address, you have joint rules that are meant to regulate business in a joint sitting. So the rules that relate to the convening of the sitting itself will apply. The rules of debate will also apply. The rules that deal with order in public meetings will apply to ensure that principles of order, the decorum of the House, such are adhered to. So those rules will be applicable. There were amendments in 2015 of the joint rules, and those amendments were basically to improve the joint rules to deal properly with issues of decorum in the House. Because at the time it was identified that there needed to be some work done on the rules so that they are able to address some of the issues that have arisen before and that were arising at the time and that might continue to arise. So the rules were amended in 2015 to take care of that. And as and when there is a need to update the rules, to adjust the rules in order to respond to current issues, the rules will be revisited and they will be amended. And the amendment of the rules is done by, depending on which set of rules, is done by the House. Like any other sitting, there must be a notice of the sitting. In this instance, the notice was published last year already, following on the correspondence from the President. And we ensure that that chamber is ready to accommodate the members. In other words, the sound, the procedural aspects are attended to, and the House, the chamber is ready for business. I mean, this being a joint sitting, it's NA members, NCOP members. There must be enough in terms of space to accommodate both these houses. So we attend to those, among other things. There's a whole range of work that is attended to behind the scenes to ensure that the members are able to conduct their work properly and with all the information that they need at their disposal. Remember, this State of the Nation address will be followed by a debate the following week, and that debate will last for 2 days, and following the debate will be a reply by the President. So it's not just about Thursday, it's a process that will culminate in the reply by the President. House officials, or what we refer to as table officials, they are there to assist the Speaker, to assist the members, to enable them to conduct their business. So we would do things like monitor the time. We would be able to track the items being dealt with. We would ensure that the necessary documentation is available. But most importantly, we are there to ensure that the House conducts itself, its business, in terms of the Constitution and its own rules. So we would ensure that if a bill comes before the House, you have the necessary quorum for that bill to go through. You would ensure that as members debate, we assist the Speaker or the presiding officer to ensure that principles of decorum are adhered to. So our duty there, we are advisors. Primarily, we are there to advise. The presiding officer is the one who runs the business of the House, but we must ensure that the presiding officer is adequately assisted in terms of the advice that we give to the presiding officer.
Welcome back. You're still watching Parliament TV. Ako amkela la ka parliamentary shaka ka huboyo endlamlao. We are coming to you live from the Cape Town City Hall, indeed, where the President at 7 p.m. tonight is expected to deliver his State of the Nation address. to the joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. That ceremony is expected to start around 6, with his motorcade arriving, and the whole ceremony that is arranged for tonight. It's going to be a huge spectacle. So we do encourage you to stay tuned to Parliament TV as we bring you those proceedings as they take place. It's a full ceremony tonight as we expected. And also in the next week on Wednesday and Thursday, rather on Tuesday and Thursday, the joint sitting will convene again, where members of Parliament will have an opportunity to debate on the President's address, on the President's speech, and then on Thursday we will have the President replying to that particular debate. And we know that the President's speech sets out priorities for government for the year, and later on, as he does deliver his speech, it's followed in a week or two towards the end of this month by the budget speech, where the Minister of Finance will be delivering his budget speech later on. But that's what we are expecting. But thank you for staying with us on Parliament TV. We are coming to you live, like I said, from the parade down here at the Cape Town City Hall, where the media is abuzz with activities outside, members of Parliament, presiding officers, members of cabinet taking interviews there. We are at the Cape Town City Hall. President Cyril Ramaphosa will tonight deliver his State of the Nation address. So stay tuned, as we will be bringing you a rolling coverage throughout the day. We are expecting the presiding officers to join us later on in the day. We expect members of cabinet to also join us. So thank you very much. We will be looking at a few inserts that we have prepared for you. And there's one about the mace, which is one of the most important elements that introduces the speaker as she walks into the sitting or the hall to form or to mark the beginning of the ceremony. So we will be bringing you insights about such ornaments as it happens. Let's take a look at this for a moment.
Building our great South African nation together.
The mace is a symbol of the authority of the National Assembly. It is carried into the chamber by the Sergeant-at-Arms and announces the arrival of the Speaker of the National Assembly. It signifies that the House is formally in session and that its proceedings are official. Standing at 1.196 meters and weighing 9.86 kilograms, the current mace is a representation of South Africa's democracy. The new mace was designed to reflect the history, tradition, diversity, culture, and languages of South Africa. The mace also celebrates the country's natural beauty, its plant and animal life, and its rich mineral resources. Each element was carefully chosen with this in mind. Though it appears to be a single unit, the mace was made and fitted in sections on an aluminium core. At the head of the mace is an 18-karat gold drum covered in springbok skin, which in turn is attached to the drum by 18 buttons made from South African minerals and gemstones. On top of the drum rests a book made from gold, on which, in raised text, is an extract from the preamble to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. The drum features images of South Africans going about their daily business. Some of the depictions that can be seen on the drum is a miner, saxophonist, machinist, architect, builder, soccer player, forklift driver, scientist, teacher, doctor, domestic worker, a woman with a baby on her back and a hoe in her hand, a woman driving a tractor, and children reading and working. The images are designed to look like African woodcuts and were chiseled by hand to create a three-dimensional look. The drum is fitted on a gold neck illustrated with dancing sand figures. 3 platinum discs in decreasing size connect the head of the mace to the shaft. The shaft is made of aluminium and inlaid with cherry and box wood. The top of the shaft is encircled by an 18-karat gold band with 6 black and 6 white half-carat diamonds set into it. Beneath this is the South African coat of arms in full-color enamel. 2/3 from the top of the mace is a beaded South African flag. The white on the flag is represented by 800 platinum or white gold beads, the yellow by 70 yellow gold beads, and the red, green, blue and black by colored glass beads. Before the mace tapers to the end is another gold band of 6 black and 6 white diamonds, and then another band of platinum. The shape of the mace recalls the Nobgiri, an African symbol of defense, authority and leadership. The drum, which forms the head of the mace, is an expression of the African tradition of using drums to call people together for a meeting. It's also a reminder that South Africa's transition to democracy was achieved through dialogue, with Parliament serving as a place where many different voices are heard. Gold is one of the core ingredients in the mace. Archaeological finds show that gold has been mined and used in African culture for centuries. Its use in the mace symbolizes the country's natural wealth and also the ancient indigenous gold mining traditions. The open book on top of the drum symbolizes the Constitution of South Africa and the principles around which Parliament functions. The Constitution is the supreme law of the country and plays a central role in the development of a new South Africa. This is echoed in its position at the top of the mace. The writing on the open pages of the book is the first line of the preamble to the Constitution in each of the 11 official languages and 1 line from an extinct Khoisan language. The platinum rings found at intervals along the shaft of the mace recall the rings worn by Ndebele women. Under the first set of platinum rings, at the base of the drum, is an image of 2 Khoisan taken from the Linton Stone, a world-famous example of South African rock art dating back at least 20,000 years. The image is a symbol of social interaction, coherence, and interdependence, all elements needed for a country such as South Africa to grow and prosper. The result of all this is a mace that recalls the past, mirrors the present, and looks forward to the future.
My name is Amy Philander. I'm 16 years old and I attend Fairmount Secondary School. Honestly, me and my fellow students at my school, we are elated to have this experience and to be fortunate enough to attend this Sona that happens once a year. We are so happy and so grateful for this opportunity. Some of the issues I would love the President to touch on is, well, South Africa, as it is a free country, it does have a lot of poverty. It has informal settlements and it has dirty water. It also has a lot of crime in it.
I would like him to job opportunities, poverty, as in what? Like poverty as in
job creation.
Yes, job creation, and then he can also serve some food to people and people who stays outside. He can also serve some food. Job opportunity, the most thing, because people are lack of job now. Yeah, I'm excited because I'm gonna meet him. If I can able to touch him, maybe I'll try. Thank you.
I just want to know how you feel about him,
Being part of Sona, I feel very proud, and for my school too, because it was nominated to be part of Sona. I feel very proud and motivated because, like, we as a school, we are becoming more motivated, even though we come from Khayelitsha. Like, we see ourselves in the upper positions. Like, we do not limit ourselves. Like, the being part of Sona gives us more motivation. Yeah. Since I'm coming from Khayelitsha, and crime is a big thing in Khayelitsha, and also unemployment, because many people are unemployed and others are at home. Even though they have grade 12s, they are not at universities or colleges.
The State of the Nation address will be held on Thursday, the 8th of February, followed by 2 days of debate on 13 and 14 February, and concluding with the reply by the President on 15 February. The State of the Nation address, commonly referred to as Sona, is one of the most important annual events in the parliamentary calendar. It is an integral part of Parliament's oversight function over the executive. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using hashtag Sona2024. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Ndilapha from i-Department of Education as i-contract worker esebenza ngezikolo ezi-around uMadrasat, i-Butterworth, uNgqamakhwe, iCentane. Ndilindele uPresident angakhe avele into yokokubana khe kuphele ukuba kwi-contract for ixesha elide njengoba wayetshilo mos kwiminyaka before newathi i-contract ixesha elinga, but thina as from i-Department of Education si-contract to pass silapha for several years, contractor simane sirenew. So uPresident ngasekavele into ye-contract, also ne-minimum wage. Some of abantwana abasebenza ezikolweni kukho i-LSAs ezisezikolweni, eza-LSAs paya 2.8, and yet uPresident wayithe i-minimum wage umuntu osebenzayo mayibe 3.5. So ngase uPresident akaphinde athi revisit loo nto leyo. Mhlambi umzekelo le nto ilapha kweliphondo lethu le-Eastern Cape, other provinces zipeya more than 3.5. So ungasakha ivelele kwi-speech sakhe azawusenza ukwenzela uba nathi nabantwana babantu abamnyama abasebenza kwii-rural areas nzima, because siya-risk mos for ukusebenza kwezi sikolo ube ungekho, even if ungonzakala awunawubhatalwa because we are a contract worker engenayo ne-UIF. Izimvo zam ngedemocracy kuba sawugqibela iminyaka iphethi azintlanga, because sisengaba bantu basasokolayo. Umzekelo, ewe sizifakelwe ezingenamsebenzi because sinayo imibane because ayinamsebenzi mos yile iphinde imke ngoku. Also sisengaba bantu bangekaqesheki, abantwana bethu baphuma ezikolweni ulinid experience esingabazi uba bazayifumana phi bangaqeshwa, because nezinye i-department mos sengenwa i-connection mos ibhuti. Yes, bhuti ndandikhe navota since 1994 ndivotele apha eCuba ezazulwana enika apha ndizalwa khona ndingqoba apha enika ndivotele apha. Also ndivotele ANC, ndingula youth stubborn because uba ndingabheka kwi-FF soon ndingafumana iposition ndiqhube nobomi party. Ndiyila youth stubborn ihleliyo kule ANC ngondibona uba yenzi kakuhle yenza kakuhle.
Ngovuyo komane fani yami ngowasengqamakhwe ngokuhlala ndihlala apha eGcuwa, nale business nayo ndiyenzayo apha eGcuwa yokufota, ndifota abantu apha esitratweni, then ke ndifota abantu umntu ndimfakele efowunini nge-R15 okanye ndimenzele ikhadi yakhe nge-R35. And yeyona nto ndiphila ngayo support ifamily yam. Kodwa kwenye icala ndiye kanga nasesikolweni because bendisanorejistarisha kwangale imali esilula, khona indawo kuthiwa silula okwenza kweyeteknoloji. So yena ndenza phana i-registration. Hayi ivele umbandela woba uMr President uzoza ngaphambili, bendicebisa uba kube funeka ezivelayo into enjengoba abantu abamnyama bajongeke kweli cala lalapha e-Eastern Cape isikakhulu, ngoba ivoti bayazifuna kunye nabantu ne-student. I-student ziyafuna i-support ukuze abantu abasebancane bayazi yonke i-information yalapha eSouth Africa. Ndiyacela uba nathi singonobhizinesi njengoba nam ndisazivulela ndifotela apha esitratweni ngokuhlala njengoba ndihlala apha eGcuwa. So iibhizinesi ezisencane zethu ukukhuliswa ize uba nathi sibheke phambili sibe sonke. Ndifuna njengoba singabantu abatsha sivote sonke sibe kunye, yonke into siyenze sonke apha eSouth Africa enzela uba umntu azovotelwa utshintsho. Yonke into itshintshe ngale ndlela umntu afuna ngayo. Ivoti yomntu oyi-one iyalenza utshintsho. Ndiyakwazi uba ndithi ndiphakame ndiyozisebenzela etanka. Ngelaa xesha lakudala andicingi uba wawunokwazi uba kufuneka mhlawumbi ube ne-permission okanye ube nento ethile uba kufuneke ukwazi ungena endaweni ethile. Kodwa kweli xesha likhoyo ngoku uyakwazi uba uhlale nabantu abamhlophe, yonke into uyakwazi uba uyenze.
Personally, I think one of the major issues that is affecting us, especially in my area, is the fact that the municipality, with the problem that I'm facing right now, is how things are handled. For instance, we haven't been paid in our program for 3 months, but yet we're still going to work. So I think government should really, and the municipalities should really just go into deeper issues and searching as to how these programs are handled and stuff. Because how does it help if we as the workers are not happy, we're not remunerated, but we still go to work? It's really unfair. For instance, we had a Black Christmas. We spent the New Year with no money, but we're advocating for the rights of women and children. Yet we are the ones that are abused by the office advocating for those rights. Democracy, you say that we do have it, but I don't think that's necessarily true, because we've got a lot of things that we are limited into having freedom towards, or rather regarding that. So I don't think it's really applicable to a certain extent, although I would say maybe to some extent, but not entirely, especially as a young Black woman. Okay, so yes, obviously I have voted. I can't be really saying the stations per se, but I voted in Johannesburg, which was my first voting place. And then now that I'm here in East London, I voted twice. So it really doesn't mean a lot to me, because I don't think it does have an impact to a certain extent. As I'm saying that democracy is kind of like a lukewarm thing for me, because yes, we do say we have freedom and democracy, but only to a certain extent.
Back. You are still watching Parliament TV. If you've just joined us, you are watching a rolling coverage of the State of the Nation address. We're building up to the big event tonight at 7 p.m. when the President, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, will ascend the stage to address the nation. And this will be the last State of the Nation address for this 6th Parliament. So we're looking forward to that address, to hear what it entails and what the President will have to say to the nation tonight. So we encourage you to stay on as we bring you this build-up to that particular moment at 7 p.m. when the President will address the nation. I'm with my colleague, Dr. Mvulani here, and I just asked her earlier about her recollection of 27 April 1994. But I'm just thinking now, with the 27 years, or rather 30 years of democracy, like it's been 30 years of a democratic parliament and 30 years of a democratic state. What's your reflection? I'm looking at the work you do in your office in the National Assembly. You dealt with we're looking at the work that Parliament has been doing for the past 30 years and how it impacts on people's lives. What can you share about the work that you've been doing in that area?
Indeed, 2024 is quite a critical milestone that we're reaching as a country, to reflect back on what it is that, where we come from, what it is that we have achieved, and what lies ahead of us. And when we're thinking about for example, the project that you're referring to, the Women's Charter Review project, It's obviously all located within the context of South Africa's transformative journey, its transformative trajectory in the last 30 years of our democracy. And women's rights, obviously, that's also a critical area of transformation that has been a key focus. And of course, as we know, these are rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, which is the highest law of the land. Women's rights are also, obviously, they also find expression within the context of the Bill of Rights. So when we look at the engagements that took place, obviously we know that various formations participated in the making of South Africa's constitution at the time, and women also organized themselves in order to ensure that women's rights are actually properly, find proper expression within the context of the constitution, to ensure that as the country moves forward to repeal old laws and to bring about it, to begin to legislate new pieces of legislation, that all of these key pieces of legislation would obviously be, they will be covered firstly under the broader context of transformative constitutionalism, which of course is the aim of the Constitution. It is it's a construct created to ensure that as we build and rebuild this country, we are on a transformative trajectory. Now, coming back to the issue of women. Women, of course, organized themselves. We know that the Women's Charter for Effective Equality was adopted in 1994 as well. But of course, prior to that, women had also participated in the process of ensuring that, you know, women's issues or women's rights are actually protected and find expression in the Constitution. But when we look at where we are right now, really, there are so many challenges that women are still facing. But I think what is most encouraging about this, reflecting on this 30-year trajectory and what we have achieved, it's this trajectory of many pieces, a wide range of pieces of legislation that have been passed. So our rights are protected. Yes, we may not have made progress, for example, from an economic perspective in terms of bringing more people into the mainstream economy, but we have made a lot of progress in terms of course, you know, adopting this progressive, I mean, the constitution of the country is actually lauded as one of the most progressive in the world. So that is a major, major achievement for us. And if we look at all of the pieces, key pieces of legislation that have been passed since then, that is it's a big win for South Africa. And as we go forward, what we need to do, we know that there are a lot of challenges that still lie ahead of us, but we also must think about where we come from. We're talking about more than 300 years of colonialism and apartheid, and what was used to enforce apartheid laws and colonialism. It was the law. It was the legal system. So Parliament is literally at the center of the country's transformation agenda by passing laws that speak to the challenges that ordinary South Africans are facing. And in going forward, I would say, in my view, yes, it is okay for us. It makes sense for us to, you know, recount the things that we haven't achieved yet. But we must also look at that within the broader context of where we come from. You cannot reach the kind of milestones that you know, people expect. And ordinarily, I mean, obviously people are under pressure when it comes to issues of unemployment and so forth. People expect a lot from government. But at the end of the day, we must think about the reality that you cannot shift the country's trajectory within a space of 30 years. If we want to build this booming economy and we want everybody to have a decent opportunity and decent standard of life, then we need to be patient, and then everybody needs to play their part to ensure that they work together with government by playing their role and again casting their vote now again as the 6th term is ending, to ensure that, you know, they vote, make their voices heard, and vote for the party that they know it will be capable of taking them forward.
Yeah. And it's a big ask sometimes for people who are struggling with unemployment and so on. But these instruments that we have in the form of elections, for instance, it's a way, a means by which anyone has an opportunity to make their point. And I think it's very important that people go out to vote and to also understand the importance of their vote, the weight that it carries.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when we look at, for example, where we started from the RDP to the NDP right now, you can see the waves, the kind of planning waves that have taken place in the last 30 years to ensure that, you know, we begin to move in tandem to ensure that, you know, we address the challenges that ordinary South Africans are facing. So when we look at where we are right now, our key focus is the overarching kind of policy plan or manuscript that is guiding our country's transformation agenda right now is, of course, the National Development Plan. And there's so much when we look at the content of what is contained in the NDP. It is clear that there is a plan in place. The ideas are all there, and it also, if we look at how the NDP was constructed, there was widespread, there was thorough engagement, you know, with all sectors of society to make sure that everybody participates in ensuring that, even with the key sectors, what needs to be done and where should our focus be as a country collectively. Now it really is just about, it's about us refining our implementing machinery, and that takes time. And of course, I mean, we know that there's also this idea that has been put on the table for the basic income grant, and that is obviously still within the context of we can see that government has an understanding that there's many people out there who are vulnerable, who don't have an income. And if we look at that and we look at the challenges that we have within the context of, you know, what transforming, meaningfully transforming the economy, that will take some time as well, because there's a lot of constraints still there that needs to be addressed, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but there is this social aspect, the social support that government is providing to ensure that, you know, that ordinary South Africans at least have something to be able to put bread on the table. So I think we still have a long way to go, but I believe that we should be proud of where we are as South Africans, and we should continue to build together.
And indeed, and we expect President Cyril Ramaphosa this afternoon to lay out the plans for the year, even though it's quite a short year, because we are definitely going to have...
few months.
Yes, we're definitely going
before
to have...
Before the next State of the Nation address after the elections.
But anyway, you can't leave out the next few months without a plan on the basis that you're going to have a State of the Nation address. But we're looking forward to that and to the debates next week, and then later on the budget speech, which would be the Minister of Finance laying out how his department is going to fund the priorities that the President would have laid out. But with that, we wrap this part, and we will be continuing with our reflections and interviews with different presiding officers and general members of Parliament. And next up, very soon, we will be joined by the Chief Whip of the Majority Party in Parliament, Mayor Phemi Majodina, so that's what we're looking forward to. But with that, just stay with us as we bring you more in the next segment.
The State of the Nation address is called in terms of Section 42.5 of the Constitution by the President of the Republic. It is a joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament and one of the rare occasions that brings together the three arms of the state under one roof.
This is an occasion of state as well as of Parliament. In South Africa, the great ceremonies of state is the inauguration of the President, is the receiving of a foreign head of state. It is the state funeral of a head of state. It is the swearing in of members of cabinet and the swearing in of members of Parliament. It is the investiture with national orders and the State of the Nation address. Of those ceremonies of the state, there are four where full ceremonial format is usually followed, and that is the inauguration of the President, that is the state opening of Parliament or the State of the Nation address to Parliament, that is the state funeral of a head of state and receiving a foreign head of state.
The full ceremonial format includes full military honors by the South African National Defence Force, a red carpet, a national salute by the Ceremonial Guard, a salute flight by the South African Air Force, the national anthem, and a 21-gun salute. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the last State of the Nation address of the 6th Parliament to a joint sitting of Parliament on Thursday, 8th February 2024. The State of the Nation address is an occasion for the President to set out the government's key policy objectives and deliverables for the year ahead. During Sona, the President also highlights achievements, flags challenges, and outlines interventions that the government will undertake to unlock development interventions for the coming financial year. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using hashtag Sona2024. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back to Parliament TV. We are coming to you live from the City Hall down here in Cape Town, where arrangements and preparations for the State of the Nation address by the President this evening are taking place. I am now joined by the Chief Whip of the Majority Party in Parliament, Mayor Pem Majodina. Abshen, Amkel.
Abshen, ikensile Soweto le akaya ke dumedisa kaufela ba bui liba lakatsi liba rati ba setjhaba sena ndiabulisa ndiabulela bonke abantu bezwe lakowethu. Thank you very much to all the viewers, and congratulations to Parliament for having received the studio yesterday. We're wishing you all the best, because without you talking to our people will not going to know what Parliament is all about. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you very much. Very kind of you. The preparations for Sona are in earnest. As you can see, the media is abuzz outside. I saw you going around, inspecting, checking on things. What's your impression of the preparation so far? Are we ready for tonight?
The Parliament is ready to host Sona. This is the very important last Sona as we mark 30 years of our freedom. That did not go without challenges. Let me start by the decorum of the House. We expect a decorum of the House to be adhered to. Whilst members of Parliament have a right to hold government accountable, but there are certain rules that one have to adhere to. And day one this evening is about the President tabling the State of the Nation address. When you want to hold the President accountable, you start that on Tuesday, Wednesday, when you do your debate. But you don't interrupt the President. It's the President delivers the State of the Nation address. So we're happy that the joint rules have been adopted by Parliament. We're hoping for a smooth running of the session today. South Africans are sick and tired of watching a drama in Parliament. That is not what we're elected for. As we get into these 30 years and this last sixth term of Parliament, it did not go without challenges. 2.5 years where the country had to be locked down, COVID-19. It is unfortunate that when the President gets assessed, he gets assessed based on 5 years. Normal people will be supposed to say, let's assess this president on 2.5 years, because 2.5 years were not very productive as a country. All the commitments that we had, we could not implement. We had to lock down the country. We have to save South Africans from COVID-19. What we have done till now, if you look at the 30 years, much has been done. But as you climb this mountain, there are more mountains to climb, because the community and the population is growing and our infrastructure is decaying, especially in local government. That is the focus that the president must talk about. What is the turnaround plan to boost local economy as well as collection of revenue in municipalities? Our small towns, small territories are unable to deliver to their citizens.
Well, of course, we can assess the president on the last few years, but let's look at the work that the ANC government has had to do for the past 30 years, but past 30 years of democracy, democratic government, democratic parliament. What's your reflection? There are negatives, but there are also positives. So what would be your reflection of the past 30 years?
If you were to say to me, I must rank out of 10 the 30 years, I was going to rank the ANC government at 9. Why do I leave 1%? I leave 1% because as we were stretching access to electricity, we neglected the reserves. We should have balanced that. You know, in the areas where people never thought of electricity, we were standing at 24% in 1994, but we are now standing at 94% of people who have access to electricity. The reason why people are fighting about load shedding now is because we brought a better life for them, and it cannot be this government that take away the better life. We are used to it. So that is number one. The clean water. I grew up in a rural area, but in my area, in a village, there is running water, something that we never thought about. We talk free, no-fee school to children who are needy. We're talking school nutrition, something that was never there. We're talking NSFAS, where the tertiary education, especially learners who come in from needy families, have access. How we have delivered on human settlement. Let's give credit where it is due. This government has made strides. You look at access in terms of ARVs. Our people are no longer dying of HIV and AIDS because you have a caring government. The social relief of the stress, only a caring government can intervene when the country is in crisis. The rate of unemployment is on that 1%. Youth unemployment is a big challenge to us, is a tickling bomb that we're sitting on, and we think that President, through the stimulus pack, presidential stimulus pack, will be able to come in. But where is the role of the business sector? Government alone cannot be able to deliver on everything. Hence, we need partnership of patriotic business sector of South Africa.
Okay, Mama Jatuna, let me thank you very much. I am going to look for you immediately after the president's address, and we want to get your reaction alongside the other parties.
But also the issue of crime and corruption, what is not happening in the country? Government is not good in communication. People are arrested on corruption. There's money that has been recouped, especially on state capture. But all those things are not said to our public. And people think that there's nothing that is happening. President today will give statistics.
Okay, I think you have a lot of work to be able to go out and say those things and tell our people about the good work that the government is doing. But with that, we are also expecting the Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Nosiviwe Mpisa-Nqakula, who will be presiding over the joint sitting for the State of the Nation address tonight, alongside the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Tatana Amos Masono. But before that, let's learn a bit more about the Speaker.
Ms. Mpisa-Nqakula is the current Speaker of the National Assembly in the 6th Administration. Ms. Mpisa-Nqakula was the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans of the Republic of South Africa from 26 May 2014 to 5 August 2021. She was the Chairperson of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and member of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence since 1994. She has been a Member of Parliament from 2004 and Member of National Executive Council, NEC, of the African National Congress, ANC, since December 2007. Before her appointment as Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Ms. Mampisa Ngqakula served as Deputy Minister of Home Affairs from 6 May 2002 to 28 April 2004, and then as Minister of Home Affairs from 29 April 2004 to 10 May 2009, and as Minister of Correctional Services of the Republic of South Africa from 11 May 2009 to 12 June 2012.
The State of the Nation address will be held on Thursday, the 8th of February, followed by 2 days of debate on 13 and 14 February, and concluding with the reply by the President on 15 February. The State of the Nation address, commonly referred to as Sona, is one of the most important annual events in the parliamentary calendar. It is an integral part of Parliament's oversight function over the executive. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using hashtag Sona2024. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Welcome back. As promised, I am now joined by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mampisa Ngqakula. Good morning, Madam Speaker, and welcome to Parliament TV. Good to have you here. I saw you walking around.
Yes,
how ready
yes.
are we for the State of the Nation?
I think we're ready. I think we should not have anxiety. I think Parliament has done very well to prepare for this State of the Nation address. Ours is now to give ourselves an opportunity to listen to what the President has to outline as part of the program of the executive authority, executive of arm of the state, and then of course for members to prepare for the debate, because subsequently to Sona, then they will have an opportunity for 2 days of engaging with the address of the President. My view is that everything else shouldn't matter. Everything else, people shouldn't be worrying about and have fear of the unknown. I'm raising this because in all the interviews I've just had, people keep on asking about the possible outcome of the court. I can't predict what the court will say this morning, but whatever it is that which the court will rule, whether in favor of our application or as defendants or in favor of the party concerned, it will not affect what we are going to do this evening. We have rules, and the rules will guide us on how we should conduct ourselves. So for me, I believe we are very ready. It is a State of the Nation address, and therefore it is clear to everybody what this session is about.
It's been 30 years of democracy, but most importantly, this is the final year of the 6th term of Parliament. What's your reflection? I mean, for the past 5 years, how do you think Parliament has fared in terms of its oversight role, including the State of the Nation address as a form of oversight?
You know what? I think that Parliament has done very well. I think members have begun to appreciate what the real mandate of legislators are. Firstly, I think that over the years, and I'm saying this having been in the executive for some time, I think there's beginning to be a better appreciation of what oversight is all about. I believe that Parliament has deepened its oversight role. I believe that Parliament has listened to criticism which has come out from outside, including from the judiciary sometimes. I believe that based on what people have raised, Parliament has geared itself, even for the 7th Parliament, to dive deeper in its conduct of oversight. I also believe that in terms of public participation, I believe we have done very well. You know, if you look at some of the developments, things which have happened over the years, you will see that when you go into some of the most remote areas from Parliament, you will hear people talking about, well, there will be an imbizo, there will be a Parliament is coming, there is this piece of legislation. People are engaging about work of Parliament. People are engaging about laws which are being passed by Parliament. People are engaging about our conduct in Parliament. People are engaging about how we present ourselves in Parliament. And what that means is that there is greater interest and therefore which allows for them to engage, not just to watch, but to engage on the issues and the work which we are doing. So I think that over the past years, Parliament has deepened its oversight role. It has enhanced the public participation process. But also when I look at work which has been done, for instance, of repealing pieces of legislation which tended sometimes to discriminate against the majority of South Africans, or pieces of legislation which made it difficult to implement laws which are meant to better the lives of our people, or service delivery. I think the fact that we've succeeded in doing that, it means that as Parliament we have a common vision as the people of South Africa about what it is that we need to do away with in order for us to move forward.
Do you think, Madam Speaker, the role of Parliament is being understood by South Africans? I'm asking this because one of the biggest criticisms is that Parliament has not done much since it received the Zondo report, for instance. And I think the expectation is that maybe Parliament should act as law enforcement, going around arresting people and so on. Do you think the role of Parliament is well understood? And how do you think Parliament has done since we received that report?
Yes, it's possible that there are people who have not quite understood in the context of the Zondo Commission report what the role of Parliament is. We are not law enforcement agencies. There is a law enforcement agent. There are people who should be conducting further investigation to follow up on the recommendations of the State Capture Commission. Now, it can't be expected that Parliament will be the one to implement some of the recommendations. We can follow up on the issues. We can look at the pointers, what Judge Zondo and team are saying to Parliament on some of, and I think this is what we have been doing. You see, having received the report and having received the program of action from the President, we then referred the different recommendations to the appropriate committees dealing with those matters. For instance, if you look at the matter of people say, but the people affected are still in Parliament. Yes, they are still in Parliament because they are members of Parliament. Everybody and everybody who sits in Parliament is a representative of a particular political party, elected by ordinary South Africans, right? So what we have done in our case was to refer some of the issues, names, to the Ethics Committee, and for the Ethics Committee to then provide guidance on how these issues should be dealt with. That's the other thing, is that I don't think people understand how the structures within Parliament work. It's like, as Speaker, You simply receive a report, you sit there and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do about it. It's not done. As the Speaker, you are advised by the appropriate committee on what steps to take on a particular matter. And in this instance of these, of the names which were given to us by the Commission, they've been to the Ethics Committee, some of them, right? And the Ethics Committee has made particular does is to give a report to the National Assembly by way of implementing the recommendation, and that is what we have done. Yes, we may not have done 80%, performed 80% in implementing the recommendations, but it's not as though the recommendations are not being implemented. I think this is one thing people need to understand, even with regards to the issue of law enforcement agencies. Yes, our responsibility is to engage with the law enforcement agencies, but we, in turn, still cannot dictate to the law enforcement agencies how they should conduct their business. You can only raise issues with them. How far is this? How far is that? And then they give you a report. What are the challenges? Why is there no movement? And it ends there. But you cannot, as Parliament, go beyond that. Which takes me to the issue of the three arms of the state, which is that you have the judiciary, which has work which is cut out for itself. You have Parliament, which is a legislature, which has its own work cut out for it. The same applies to the executive, much as we have an oversight function as Parliament. But we may not dictate to the executive how things should be done. But at oversight, we exercise, definitely. So I'm just saying, for me, there are people who know how Parliament should function. I found, for instance, when we receive sometimes petitions, I find that the fact that people know that, okay, my last resort will be Parliament. Let me write a petition and send it to Parliament. It means that there's beginning to be a deeper and a better appreciation of what the role of Parliament is. It means that people understand that we have an oversight role which we must play. So you submit that petition knowing fully well that Parliament will follow up on those matters and that Parliament will bring people to account.
Before I let you go, Madam Speaker, I know you're going to other interviews. We are wrapping the 6th term of Parliament in a few months. How much work do we still have before the end of term, and what recommendations are you going to make to the 7th Parliament?
Look, there's a lot of work which is left for us. Amazingly, even up as late as Monday, for instance, we are still receiving pieces of legislation from members of the executive which must be processed before Parliament rises, which is not possible. So what is clear to me is that there are pieces of legislation we will not be able to pass during this 6th Parliament. But what is important is that we are preparing a legacy report, and part of the reason for that being that whoever comes in as part of the executive authority of Parliament will have an insight into work which was being done by the 6th Parliament, and will therefore take from those recommendations or from that work which is incomplete or complete, which is incomplete, which was done by the 6th Parliament. But I believe that the 6th Parliament has done very well. I must say that one of the biggest challenges which we had as the 6th Parliament, and I just pray that it's something which should never ever happen to another Parliament, was the burning of Parliament, the fire in Parliament, which really distracted our workings, scattered everything. But the good thing is that, though, even though it destroyed the infrastructure of Parliament, but committees never stopped working. We've continued to have plenary sessions. So work has been done, but there was disruption. For instance, there's a call for full physical meetings of the National Assembly. And we have to come to the City Hall at a huge cost, right? Now, for me, one of the key and the most fundamental issues which the 7th Parliament will have to be seized with, it is the restoration process. We have laid the foundation now for the restoration process. It has begun. There's now going to be demolition. Rubbles have been removed. The outline, the plan, everything is there.
Members have offices
Members have offices. There's not a single member who does not have an office space to work from. So we've done a lot of work. So for me, it's about now ensuring, as the last issue, that when Parliament, after the dissolution of the 6th one, when the first Parliament is ushered in, when people are sworn in, that State of the Nation which will elect the President of the Republic and the Speaker of the National Assembly, that session out will have to make sure that before Parliament rises, we have a venue for that. Yeah. And that venue cannot be the City Hall, unfortunately. For now, we're looking at different venues where Parliament can operate from, where the National Assembly in particular can operate from, and have the full complement of members of Parliament, other than the Good Hope Center. So the restoration process, unfortunately, it was a distraction. It caused a lot of problems for us. But I think also it offers an opportunity for Parliament to remodel whatever infrastructure which is there, to reflect our Africanness, to reflect our South Africanness, to reflect the fact that this is a Parliament in a new democracy.
Madam Speaker, let me thank you very much and wish you the best for tonight as we head to the State of the Nation. That was the Speaker of the National Assembly, who will later be presiding over the State of the Nation address. And as you have heard, those are her expectations for today. More to come here on Parliament TV. Stay with us.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you are still watching Parliament TV on DSTV channel 408. We are, of course, still building up to the President's State of the Nation address, which he will deliver this evening at 7 p.m. And as you know, we did mention to you earlier that the Cape Town City Hall is now the parliamentary precinct from where the President will be delivering his address from this evening. I do now have the pleasure of being joined by the Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance in the National Assembly, Mayor Warube, who's here to talk to us a little bit about what to expect this evening. And of course, we will also be reflecting on the work of Parliament in the last 4 years. Mayor Warube, thank you so much for making the time to be with us.
I'm very pleased to be here.
Fantastic, fantastic. To start off our conversation, talk to us firstly about what are your assessments in terms of Parliament's performance in the last 4 to 5 years?
I think obviously one can completely acknowledge that Parliament has been in a has had a very difficult term, perhaps the most difficult term since our democracy. We saw the advent of COVID-19, which we lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of members during that time. And so it really caused a lot of havoc where we could not convene anymore. We had to conduct business virtually. But at the same time, having to quickly grasp with the understanding that, you know, when there's a crisis in the country, Parliament doesn't go into what you would call isolation. Absolutely. And then that's when you actually need the institution to be on its feet, asking the relevant questions. Are we ready for the COVID-19 pandemic? Are we doing what is necessary to save lives? What are these, the state of disaster and the regulations? Are they rational? Are they saving lives and livelihoods? So immediately we soon realized that while the country was in lockdown, Parliament could not be in lockdown, and we had to immediately spring into action and start to look at those things. And then, of course, tragically, we lost our precinct, our building, when the parliamentary building was gutted by the fire. And so really, from COVID-19 straight into the fire, and which is why we are here today in the City Hall, is because, you know, we've now lost the building. And what a tragedy, because it is in that building, you know, that Nelson Mandela delivered his inaugural speech. It is in that building that a lot of apartheid's laws were repealed and new laws were passed of our democratic country. And so really a lot of history was lost. We lost a lot of members. But at the same time, I think we've now got to cast our eyes onto the 7th Parliament and ask ourselves some difficult questions. Have we performed to the best of our ability? These difficulties that I've highlighted notwithstanding, I think we've got to look at whether or not we've implemented some of the recommendations of the State Capture Report by the then Deputy Chief Justice Zondo. They had it, you know, in that inquiry, we saw that you know, Parliament came under a lot of fire for not having exercised its constitutional obligations, for not having held the executive to account. And a lot of these things must make us pause for reflection, because I'm afraid when Parliament doesn't work, then South Africa is poorer for it. When the people of South Africa don't trust that their issues and the things that bother them are the things that we are occupied with here, then there's a misalignment in what we are meant to do, because we are public representatives. Our job, we are solely here to represent the people of the country. And so I think there's a lot that we can learn from this term. And going into the 7th Parliament, I think we've got to ask ourselves, have we done enough? And I think we haven't done enough, and we must do better in the next term.
So when we look at, when we reflect on this 30-year anniversary of our democracy, obviously there's a lot of laws that have been passed, and as you rightfully point out, you speak about all of the laws, the apartheid laws that were repealed between 1994 to where we are right now. Does it make sense to then say that, I mean, if we reflect on where we come from as a country, 300 years of colonialism and apartheid, and the impact of that on society, and we've only, yes, this term there were a lot of challenges, but can we really move the country forward at such a pace that, you know, we want to have the opposite of what we had during the apartheid era? Is that fair?
Well, I suppose one can say, you know, it may be an unrealistic dream. But the problem that we have is that, you know, as you say, it's been 30 years. And my worry is that the country is regressing in many of independent indices. When one looks at unemployment, when one looks at the cost of living, when one looks at crime, the energy crisis, and all of these things, my concern is that we may not have the luxury of time. the 30 million South Africans who are living in poverty are looking to this house and this institution for solutions. The people who are, who have been victims of crime, of gender-based violence, the people who've lost loved ones to crime are looking to us for solutions. There's 7 out of 10 young people who don't have work are asking us, what are you doing? And so, yes, it may be an unfair criticism to say we haven't completely undone the legacy of apartheid. And I think perhaps South Africans are not even asking for that. I don't think that South Africans are unrealistically asking us to undo the legacy of colonialism and apartheid in 30 years. But what they are saying is we're losing hope. And we're fast losing hope in your ability to resolve our issues. And I think for me, that's where the urgency is. And particularly young people who are saying we are disengaging from the political system because we don't believe it is through the political system that we can see the change. And so I'm saying to my colleagues, I'm saying, yes, a lot of you, are closer to the end than you are from the beginning. But at the end of the day, there are people who are looking to us who are saying, well, my life is worse now than it was several years ago. What are you doing about it? So I think it may be an unfair criticism, but I think that we don't have the luxury of time. And people's lived experiences is now becoming at such a perilous state that they are looking to us for these solutions.
Indeed. Chief Whip, unfortunately, that's where we have to leave it for now. But thank you very much for making the time to be with us.
Thank you.
Mayor Kgarube is the Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance in Parliament. Do stay tuned for more on the State of the Nation address.
Building our great South African nation together.
The black rod is the symbol of the authority of the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. It derives its name from the ebony wood from which the rod is traditionally made. It is carried by the usher of the black rod in the ceremonial processions, such as during a sitting of the House. It is placed upright next to the presiding officer's chair as an indication that the House is formally in session. Similar to the mace, it resembles a nopkiri, an African symbol of defense, authority, and leadership. The black rod stands at a length of 1.1 meter and weighs 8 kilograms. The protea at the head of the black rod is South Africa's national flower. It has 2 rows of 9 handmade 18-karat gold leaves, each representing one of the 9 provinces. The inner core of the protea is made of pure silver and is finished in oxidized silver. The supporting disc below the protea is made of ebony and is connected to the shaft of the rod by 18-karat gold struts. Below the protea is a section of beadwork which represents South Africa's diverse people and its rich cultural heritage. The shaft of the black rod is made of ebony, the South African coat of arms made of pure silver and finished in color vitreous enameling appears twice on the shaft. The shaft is also inlaid with 18-karat gold strips. 2 sets of clasping hands engraved by hand in 18-karat gold also appear on the shaft and symbolize freedom, peace, and cooperation. The national flag appears 3 times on the shaft. The flags are pure silver and are finished in vitreous enameling. 6 gold rings on the shaft of the black rod are made of 18-karat gold. When the National Council of Provinces is in session, the black rod stands in a drum. The drum is a symbol of the African tradition of using drums to call people together for a meeting. It is also symbolic of South Africa's achievement of democracy through dialogue. The drum is made of yellow wood, and the top is covered in springbok skin. Encircling the drum is a pure silver band engraved with images of rock paintings. Placed over these images are further images depicting elements of South Africa's 9 provincial coats of arms in colored vitreous enameling. From the northwest is a calabash gold. From the Free State is a cluster of Orange River lily flowers. From the Northern Cape is a thorn tree. From KwaZulu-Natal is the Strelitzia flower. From Mpumalanga is the red Barberton daisy. The Eastern Cape is represented by the red aloe, indigenous to the Eastern Cape. The Limpopo province is represented by the baobab tree. From Gauteng is the chemical symbol for iron. Lastly, the Western Cape representation is a bunch of grapes. All these come together to epitomize the unity that this nation represents.
Welcome back. You're still watching Parliament TV on DSTV channel 408. Thank you for staying with us on Parliament TV. We are coming to you live from the Cape Town City Hall, where tonight President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver his State of the Nation address to a joint sitting of both houses. I am pleased to be joined now by Ndate Masondo, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Good morning, Chairperson. Welcome to the platform, and thank you for being with us.
Morning to you and to all the viewers. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Chairperson, as we start our conversation, we know that in a few weeks' time, literally, South Africa will be marking exactly 30 years since our 1994 watershed moment. Talk to us about the evolution of the National Council of Provinces as a chamber that is responsible for provinces and ensuring that provincial interests are taken into account in the national sphere.
Thank you very much. Let us start by saying that the National Council of Provinces is constituted of 10 delegates coming from each of the 9 provinces. The other 10 delegates come from the South African Local Government Association, therefore represents in the NCOP organized local government. So it has been 30 years of hard work, and this work has been informed by each of the parliaments grappling with specific issues, ranging from deepening accountability and ensuring meaningful oversight, to issues like ensuring that the National Council of Provinces becomes and represents the notion of an activist parliament. Now, these issues, these areas of focus have not really departed from what parliaments are meant to do, because parliament is meant to ensure accountability and oversight, ensure that it remains representative of the people overall, lawmaking, and amongst others, this whole notion of parliaments that promotes in doing of its work, diplomatic work, parliamentary diplomacy. So I've pursued all of these issues and so on. But I also had an opportunity to deal with specific legislation, including, amongst others, just the passing recently of the National Health Insurance Bill, the Electoral Act, and of course, in an ongoing way, we've been grappling with ensuring that we continue to debate relevant issues that are emerging from communities, including, amongst others, the killing of councillors, and therefore the question of a threat to our democracy overall, and the need to ensure that we become a more tolerant society, and that we allow for the expression of views that may not be popular, but are held strongly by certain sections of our society, this being, amongst others, specific civil society organizations and so on. So the NCOP has been really grappling with a whole range of issues that have taken us to communities, including local government week, the provincial week, and of course interacting and engaging with the legislative sector, just to ensure that our work is somewhat harmonized. Of course, we know that this can't be 100% because some issues are more prominent in some provinces than in others. But overall, we have sought to harmonize our work and ensure that we empower, especially public representatives, so that they're able to do their work even better. There's also work that is ongoing, that's not spoken about and talked about in the main media platforms, and that work includes what we refer to as parliamentary constituency activities and work, where we even get an opportunity to address issues that affect voters, residents, and people in local areas.
Indeed. Chairperson, talk to us about how COVID-19, of course we know COVID-19 has had a profound impact, a negative impact on how Parliament conducts its business. But out of that, we know that the NCOP has also innovatively used, online platforms to ensure, via Zoom, to ensure that it continues with its work. So talk to us how the NCOP has used online platforms such as the Zoom platform, obviously within the context of the fourth industrial revolution, to ensure that it continues with its business, to continue with oversight and holding the executive to account, to ensure that there is sustained progress as we continue on this transformative trajectory.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. The pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, was a big devastation, and it delivered real blows to communities and did not leave the NCOP unaffected. But in every crisis, there's an opportunity. And what we have sought to do is to really utilize this once in a lifetime development to deepen the use of technology and have held many successful meetings. So what we did was really to avoid being paralyzed by the pandemic, but use technology to take our work to a different level. And I must say that my impression is that we've successfully done this, and this form of communication and platform has become a living reality. So going forward, we'll use technology without, of course, underestimating the importance of physical meetings, which have a role an important one at that, so that our work is taken forward.
Chair, as we conclude, talk to us about Parliament's state of readiness to host this evening's State of the Nation address.
I think that we're ready. We're ready. Ready in part because Sona, State of the Nation address, is a platform that is really meant to ensure that the three spheres of government come under one roof: the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. And besides, there are millions of people out there who are awaiting today's state of the nation. That's why it's very, very important that the president is able to speak without interruption, so that people out there can be able to listen to what is being said and to make a judgment for themselves on whether indeed we're making the kind of progress that we're supposed to make, and to determine for themselves whether indeed the challenges that are outlined are what is within their own experience, and thirdly, just to also provide an opportunity for people to, on their own, debate these issues in their own civil society organization and relevant platform, as we grapple to find meaningful solutions to issues that we need to address.
Indeed. Chairperson, that is where we will have to leave it for now, but thank you very much for making the time to be with us this morning. Dr. Masondo is the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, shedding light, of course, on the importance of the State of the Nation address. Later this month, the premiers of provinces will be delivering their respective State of the Province addresses. Look out for those here on Parliament TV. Do stay tuned to Parliament TV, follow Parliament on social media at Parliament of RSA, and join the conversation using the hashtag Sona 2024. I will be shortly joined by the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Tatele Chesa Zenodi, who will be talking to us as well, just giving us his perspective about our trajectory as a country from 1994 to where we are right now, and of course some reflections as well about our state of readiness for this evening's State of the Nation address. Do stay tuned.
Mr. Masondo is the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces since 2019. He was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg between 2001 and 2011. In 2001, he was elected as member of the Gauteng legislature and was subsequently elected to serve as mayor of Johannesburg. He was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg from 2001 to 2011 and successfully led the process of deepening and unifying the local municipality into a greater metropolitan democratic local government. He first became a member of parliament serving in the National Assembly from May 2014 until May 2019. In the National Assembly, he was appointed to the Joint Committee on Ethics and in the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. He also served on the Joint Standing Committee on the Financial Management of Parliament and on the Ad Hoc Committee to nominate a person for appointment as the Public Protector. He has been awarded many awards and recognized for various achievements on governance.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the last State of the Nation address of the 6th Parliament to a joint sitting of Parliament on Thursday, 8th February 2024. The State of the Nation address is an occasion for the President to set out the government's key policy objectives and deliverables for the year ahead. During Sona, the President also highlights achievements, flags challenges, and outlines interventions that the government will undertake to unlock development interventions for the coming financial year. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using hashtag Sona2024. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
Ms. Sylvia Lucas is the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces since 2019. Ms. Lucas has an illustrious history of leadership in the Northern Cape, the ANC, and the ANC Women's League. From 1995 to 2000, Lucas served as a councillor for the Garahais local community in Uppington. In 2000, Ms. Lucas was elected to serve in the Northern Cape Provincial Legislature, where she served on various standing committees of the legislature. She also served as the Deputy General Secretary of the Association of Public Accounts Committee in 2004 to 2006, and as a General Secretary from 2006 to 2009. In 2009, Ms. Lucas was appointed as the MEC for Environment and Nature Conservation in the Northern Cape. Between 2013 and 2019, she served as Premier of the Northern Cape Province. Ms. Lucas joined Parliament in 2019 as a permanent delegate to the National Council of Provinces, where she was appointed as the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces.
Welcome back. You are still watching Parliament TV, and indeed we are bringing you a build-up to the State of the Nation address. This morning we promise you interviews with Parliament's leadership. I am now joined by the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ms. Sylvia Lucas. Ma'am, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me, and
Yes.
good morning to our viewers.
I saw you making rounds, looking up on things. How ready are we for the State of the Nation?
So, for the past 30 days, we've been very busy making sure that we are really ready for everyone that we have invited, but also for the President that have requested for this address of tonight, to address the nation, to update them on our progress so far, but also to reflect on the way ahead, because this is actually the final State of the Nation address for the 5th Parliament, for the 6th Parliament, let me correct myself, for the 6th Parliament, but also it is an opportunity for the people of South Africa to be really in conversation with the President of the nation, so that they can understand where we are coming from and where we are going. It is also a very historical moment, because in the history of South Africa, it is 30 years of democracy. In 1994, historically, we had our first democratic elections, where the first ever black president was elected. So 30 years after that, where are we? What do we envisage is going to happen? And historically, what have improved since we started in 1994 with our democratic project?
Yes. And of course, as we prepare for this afternoon, I saw all the presiding officers from very early in the morning out here interacting with the media. How important is for presiding officers to be available and interacting with the media? The role of the media.
Maybe I must just take you about a few steps back. 2019 was the first time that I was deployed to the national sphere of parliament, and subsequently I was deployed to the National Council of Provinces. Then there was a survey. They said about 21% of South Africans know about Parliament and what Parliament is doing, and they've got confidence that Parliament is on the right track.
Yeah.
That was about 21%, if I remember correctly. That was about 5 years ago. Just yesterday, or the day before yesterday, a survey came out that put Parliament on about 42 to 46%, which is for the term a major improvement.
Yeah.
And which shows that what we've been doing the past 5 years have actually made sure that Parliament begin to take in our rightful position in the public discourse. And that is something that is very important, because for me it was like a disappointment to see that so few people are really on par with what we are doing at Parliament level. And fortunately for me, as the deputy presiding officer, or the deputy chairperson of the NCOP, together with the deputy speaker, we were responsible for stakeholder engagement and also for sectoral parliaments and sectoral engagement.
Yeah.
And that actually offered such a nice opportunity for us to make sure that we actually raised awareness around the workings of Parliament and also the importance of the role of Parliament as one of the arms of state. So,
and one of those important things is the role of women and what Parliament does to protect the rights of women. And I know you've been very busy with a particular project that's close to your heart in this time. How do you reflect on that work that you've been doing?
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I did in 2019, when we got to Parliament, everyone was very busy trying to find their feet. But I actually, in my province where I came from, I was always responsible for that is the Northern Cape, where I was a premier, but I was also a MEC before, and I was also a deputy chief whip before. I was always, from the legislature where I served, I was responsible for programs like the Women's Parliament, and particularly the Women's Parliament and the Women's Agenda was something that was very close to my heart and that I took up. And so when I reached Parliament, in fact, it was 25 years since the adoption of the Women's Charter. So one of the projects that we decided to make our 5-year legacy project, it was to review the Women's Charter. Yeah. And I think that was like one of the most fulfilling projects that I have ever worked on in my short time of about 25 years in the legislative sphere. So we started as our office, and together with the Deputy Speaker as a project of Parliament, we started the review of the Women's Charter. And I can tell you that at the initial stage, we went into the archives of Parliament to see what much have changed for women. Before we could go for a review, we had to understand the context where you are coming from. Yeah. And I can tell you that there was so many legislation that have been amended, adopted, and actually brought into the legislative sphere that actually address the issues and the plight of women. At that stage, it was the Domestic Violence Act, for instance, because when we started as a democratic government, issues of domestic violence was seen as like domestic violence, and the law ordinarily didn't really interfere in domestic issues. But we started to identify it as a plague, as something that is really killing our women folk. Even today, you see, there is this thing of gender-based violence and what we have now termed femicide. How still up until this day, violence against women and children and vulnerable people are still very much on the agenda. But what we have done since we have enacted that kind of legislation, and even the year before last year, we have actually started to make sure that we emphasize and we strengthen the sanctions on issues of gender-based violence and so on. So within that context, there is another act that is something that was very important to me, and that is the Maintenance Act. Remember, before the democratic dispensation, men could make children all over the space and not take responsibility for their children. But we enacted the issue of maintenance that can be that you can get from anyone that can be responsible in a family, but also from men, to make sure that we can even put debit orders against the salaries if they are economically active. And that was brought about by the democratic project. There is one or two of the things that we can mention. There are many things that's still happening. Just recently we adopted the National Health Insurance Act, and if actually implemented, it will make a major difference in the lives of many poor people that doesn't have access to medical services.
So obviously you referred to the project that you undertook reviewing the Women's Charter, and you said it will obviously go into the legacy report. But let's reflect a bit on what your observations are in terms of, you took this project to all provinces, to different districts across the country. What are your reflections? What were your observations as you went about in the height of COVID at times?
People will say that I'm speaking about this, but it is so close to my heart, I must say that.
Yeah.
For going to 52 districts in the country and to all 9 provinces, to sit down with all 9 executives, even the Western Cape, because women's issues are human rights, and it is important for all of us. And we sat with all of the districts, we sat with all of the executives of provinces, and we made sure that they understand where we are coming from. Now, our observations, that is something that you have asked me that you would love to hear from us. First of all, that was like women still in this democratic dispensation feel that apartheid treated them as minors, but we haven't treated them better, some of them. Culturally, you still found that men can marry as many wives as they want to without taking into account the rights of the first wife. It's some of the things that we addressed. There is the issue of the marriage regime. The Muslim women came to us to say our marriage regime is so discriminatory against women. It is so depriving. And today, as we speak, the Minister of Home Affairs came to me personally to say, Deputy Chairperson, we are reviewing the marriage regime. We are trying to make sure that there is one marriage regime, one act that deals with all marriages in South Africa. I didn't know it is necessary for marriage to be enacted. But if you go out and you find that culturally, women are sitting there with no rights to property of their men, and any one of their wives, 3 or 4 wives, can come and claim anything without any legislation protecting the rights of the legal wife, the one that has been paid lobola for, or the one that have been in the civil union, have been married to this man. So that is the kind of things that came out in our consultation, and we could bring it to the executive, and it's being addressed. It is definitely being addressed. The other issue that I also just recently, we came to President, I was participating in the debate, and we brought to the fore the issue of women, particularly over 35 years, do not qualify to become policewomen, do not qualify for positions in the civil service and so on. And just recently, the President announced that they are addressing that issue, that if you are fit and well and you've got the necessary qualifications, 35 years will not be the cutoff age. I don't know, I never see it enacted anywhere, but it was implemented, and in a very strict way. But also the issues of I'm coming back to culture and tradition. Yeah. You know that young girls could be this ukutwala thing, they could be grabbed, and old men for that matter, can then take a 15-year-old to become his wife, and the family is satisfied by getting paid a goat or some cows, or, I mean, there was just not, and it is a contradiction of our legislation, because in South African law, no person should sleep with a girl under the age of 16 years. Yeah. But it was happening. In fact, an old man telling you that this is my wife, and the parents don't see anything wrong with that. So that were some of the things that we really, it came out because of the consultation process. But also the issue of inequality in wages, in pay, not getting equal pay for equal work. In actual fact, the gender pay gap is something that we were trying to address, but it's still persisting, particularly in the private sector, and we are trying to address that. We worked with the academici on issues and proposals and things, and we proposed it, and we took it forward. So this exercise, sometimes people say we are bringing together talk shops, but it was so fulfilling to work with the women of South Africa and really to see issues that we can address. But sometimes people don't have the courage to go to platforms to speak out on it. And it was nice for me to work with the institution supporting democracy, because that's as they could give us like accurate information on the situation of women in each and every province up to a district level. Yeah. And then now also the Commission on Gender Equality, we could work with them, and they could also assist us in making sure we identify the areas that need this kind of review, or that need this kind of engagement the most. And we went to Mpumalanga physically, we went to KwaZulu-Natal physically. KwaZulu-Natal, women from the deepest rural areas. At that stage, it was a buzzword to speak about the Women's Charter. And I was once sitting in a meeting, a big meeting, and one lady stood up and said, but the Women's Charter said this to us. And the women's, you know how proud you would feel if you realize that this thing has made an impact at every level of society. And that is what we achieved. I mean, and why must we be modest about it? Because we did achieve it as Parliament. And that is some of the things that put Parliament at the level where almost 50% of society say no. But we know if we go to Parliament, our problems can be addressed. Yeah.
We believe we're going to see more of these reports finding reflection or expression in the legacy report that Parliament will be handing over to the 7th Parliament. Deputy Chairperson, let me thank you very much for your time. I know you still have a lot of work preparing for the State of the Nation tonight. That was the chairperson, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ms. Sylvia Lucas, joining us. We continue with our rolling coverage. Please do join us after a short break. Thank you.
Building our great South African nation together.
The Parliament of the Republic of South Africa consists of two houses, the National Assembly as well as the National Council of Provinces. The National Council of Provinces, or NCOP for short, is constitutionally mandated to ensure that provincial interests are taken into account in the national sphere of government.
The NCOP is uniquely placed to reflect the diversity of our society and to synthesize the experience of those spheres of government charged with the great bulk of the task of implementing the country's national program of fundamental change, close quote.
This is done through participation in the national legislative process and by providing a national forum for consideration of issues affecting provinces. The NCOP also ensures that local government concerns are represented at the highest level. The NCOP consists of 9 provincial delegations nominated by the provincial legislatures and a delegation from the South African Local Government Association, or SALGA for short. Each provincial delegation has 10 members made up of 4 special delegates drawn from the provincial legislature, including the Premier of the province or a person designated by the Premier as head of the delegation. These delegates may change from time to time. In addition to that, there are also 6 permanent delegates. This means every province is equally represented in the NCOP. Similar to its counterpart, The NCOP has office bearers who are responsible for overseeing the duties of the House. Chairperson and 2 deputy chairpersons manage the work of the NCOP and preside over debates, making sure that delegates can speak freely while remaining within the rules. Of the 2 deputy chairpersons, one is a permanent deputy chairperson who is elected for 5 years, while provincial premiers take turns being deputy chairpersons for a year. A provincial whip organizes the work of each provincial delegation. Parties with at least 7 permanent delegates and who do not have members functioning as provincial whips are also entitled to a party whip. The NCOP considers, passes, amends, proposes amendments to, or rejects legislation. It must consider all national bills. The NCOP has oversight of the executive within its role as the representative of the provinces. The NCOP may require a cabinet member, an official in the national government or a provincial government to attend a meeting of the council or a committee of the council. The NCOP also conducts oversight visits to the communities in order to ensure that they get direct information on the needs and challenges of the people. All these efforts to make your future work better.
Parliament TV. You are watching the build-up to the State of the Nation Address 2024 live from the City Hall here in Cape Town. And I am now joined by the Secretary to the National Council of Provinces, Advocate Pindela. Advocate, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Preparations for the State of the Nation Address tonight are underway, but this marks the end of the 5th term, of the 6th term of Parliament. What preparations are being made to conclude this term, and how much work do we still have left before we move on to the next term of Parliament after elections?
Yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, as you have indicated, this is the last leg of the current Parliament.
Yeah.
The elections will usher in the 7th Parliament.
Yeah.
We still have a lot to do in this term. Obviously, there are still bills that are coming from the National Assembly going into the National Council of Provinces. Some of these bills affect provinces, and therefore the provincial legislatures must also deal with those bills. So we still have a lot to do. I'm sure there will also be debates on matters of national importance. We still have the State of the Nation Address to debate. We still have the budget. So there's still a lot to really do. I'm sure some of the things will not necessarily be finalized or concluded during this 6th Parliament. Okay. We'll certainly carry those into the 7th Parliament, if the 7th Parliament will be able to do or to conclude all those matters.
So how do we do it? Does this term end, and then we just take all the work and give it to them? How do they know where you left off and so on?
Well, not necessarily so. We will definitely prepare a report for the current term, for the current Parliament, which will be handed over to the 7th Parliament. The 7th Parliament will then determine whether it takes those matters forward or it does not take those matters forward. All the business that would be before the 6th Parliament at the end of its term will lapse. So the 7th Parliament will take its own decisions on those matters that would have served before the 6th Parliament. Including all the bills, the 7th Parliament will have to determine whether it wants to resuscitate work on those bills or not. In the event that it decides to do so, the indication would be that would be what the 6th Parliament did, and the 7th Parliament can then take over from that. Because in terms of administrative law, a succeeding parliament is not bound by the decisions of the preceding parliament.
Just as a form of education to the public, how is parliament constituted? We go into elections, then this parliament ceases to exist, then what?
We will definitely have a period where the National Assembly takes a decision to dissolve itself, to bring itself to an end. That will probably be after the announcement of the date of the elections. And once that resolution has been taken, even if that resolution has been taken, it will continue to function. It will continue to work until a day before the first day of the elections.
Not dissolution and then they stop.
It's not dissolution and then they stop. They continue to function in terms of the constitution. In the event that there are certain matters that urgent debate or urgent decisions to be taken, then it can still take the decisions until the day before the first day of the polling. Insofar as the National Council of Provinces is concerned, the National Council of Provinces continues to exist until immediately before the first sitting of the provincial legislatures, precisely because the members of the National Council of Provinces are delegated or designated by the provincial legislatures. So once the elections have taken place, then there will be the first sitting of the National Assembly where the president will be elected, inauguration of the president. Then we'll have the first sitting of the National Council of Provinces, the first sitting of the provincial legislatures, in order for them to designate or assign members of the National Council of Provinces. Then we will have the first sitting of the National Council of Provinces. Ordinarily, how we arrange it is that all the provincial legislatures sit on the same day. So that we do get the delegates from all the provincial legislatures. Then the National Council of Provinces will have its first sitting.
Okay. So I'm thinking now in terms of rules. Are we going into an election? Coalition governments have been a possibility. We've seen in some of the metros and in some of the municipalities in the country. Should it happen that in the national elections we come out with a coalition government, are the current rules sufficient to usher in such an arrangement of a seventh parliament?
Look, the rules determine the workings, the internal functioning of parliament. The National Assembly has its own rules. The National Council of Provinces has its own rules. We also have the joint rules, which will be governing, for instance, the joint sitting of today. So how government, the parties would decide to coalesce would be upon the parties to decide on that. In the event that we have a coalition, the rules will be there. For instance, in the first sitting of the National Council of Provinces, we put the rules before the House, and the House decides to adopt or not to adopt those rules. I'm sure the National Assembly will do the same. But I'm sure if there would be any coalitions, then there will be the rules governing coalitions amongst the parties. But the rules of the National Assembly will determine how the National Assembly, for instance, not how the National Assembly will be constituted, but how the National Assembly will carry out its own business. The same as the National Council of Provinces with its own rules, how it carries out its own business. The rules of debate, how members should conduct themselves, how committees should function, how committees should be constituted, and so on and so on. So those would be the rules that would govern the internal arrangements of the two houses.
Okay. So in terms of the legacy report that's going to be prepared, what can we expect to go into the legacy report? Let's say the NCOP, for instance, there are like great oversight projects like your taking parliament to the people, your local government week, for instance, and so on and so on. What else can we expect to go into the report? And what's your reflection in terms of these projects, how the NCOP has fared in the past 5 years?
Well, the report that we envisaging should not be the report that says to the succeeding National Council of Provinces or the succeeding National Assembly, this is the work that we could not do, please do it. That is not the kind of the report that we are envisaging. Yeah. Of course, it will outline the successes, it will outline the challenges, it will outline the failures. But mostly it should indicate the lessons that the succeeding parliament, the succeeding National Assembly, the succeeding National Council of Provinces should learn, and the extent to which the National Council of Provinces and the National Assembly have conducted oversight, and not necessarily to burden the succeeding National Assembly and the succeeding National Council of Provinces.
Yeah. I think Parliament has been, the rules of Parliament have been tested a lot in this sixth Parliament. We've seen the removal of the public protector for the first time, and now we're seeing the updating of the rules because of certain kind of incidents that happen or take place in within the houses. For example, I know the matter is still in court, but both the houses have had to deal with an incident where the president was interrupted during the State of the Nation address, and I know the rules have been updated. What can we expect in terms of rules that have been updated and the expectation of South Africans tonight?
That judgment, in fact, was delivered this morning. So the history of the rules, of the joint rules in particular, the National Council of Provinces has just amended its own rules. The National Assembly also amended its own rules. The joint rules, to the extent that they have been amended, they have been amended. Chapters 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 2, capital A have been amended. But if you look at the history, the decision was not taken yesterday, it was not taken this year, it was taken some time back. That the rules are not up to date, they must be amended in order to bring them in line with the current processes, with the current practices. So that we don't look at the rules that are no longer necessary, those rules that are obsolete, those rules that have fell into disuse must be discarded from the rule book, and make sure that the rules are up to date, they are in keeping with the modern parliamentary practices, not only in South Africa but also internationally.
Advocate Pindela, let me thank you very much for making time to be with us here at Parliament TV. Of course, that's Advocate Motivedi Pindela, Secretary to the National Council of Provinces, and we wish him all the best as they prepare for tonight. All the best, Advocate.
I'm sure it will be a successful State of the Nation address. We will definitely make sure that it succeeds. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're definitely looking forward to that, and we continue with this rolling coverage, bringing you more interviews, giving you insight in terms of what's taking place outside and what's happening in terms of the preparations for tonight. And the President is expected to deliver that State of the Nation address, highly anticipated, last one for this term of Parliament at 7 p.m. Let's take a look at this.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the last State of the Nation address of the 6th Parliament to a joint sitting of Parliament on Thursday, 8th February 2024. The State of the Nation address is an occasion for the President to set out the government's key policy objectives and deliverables for the year ahead. During Sona, the President also highlights achievements, flags challenges, and outlines interventions that the government will undertake to unlock development interventions for the coming financial year. Watch the address live across Parliament's platforms at 7 p.m. Follow Parliament on social media and join the conversation using hashtag Sona2024. Parliament, following up on our commitments to the people, making your future work better.
into endimphambisa nqoma kuyo yinkathalo kubantu abadala nethemba lathi asifezekise umzekelo icrime uyayizama awubeni njena inako umntu obugexegexayo bengazabe ucrime aqinise ulawulo lwakhe urhulumente usikhulule sakwazi uthetha uhamba indawo kodwa ke ngokwezimvo okanye izithembiso zakhe into ezinye akathi asifezekise umzekelo ngengayesho into nayibalula abantwini abatsha but kwelinye icala abantu uyazama ubalungiselela ukubabonelela yeka kuba ke iphela ke kwabantu abanesesikhulu ingafiki ebantwini hayi ndizawuvota ndiwuvotele lo mbutho uphetheyo kuba andinawuthi andizowuvotela ngoba ivoti yam andifuni ipiye kwelinye omnye umbutho ndiba mhlawumbi ngethemba mhlawumbi njengambutho odala uphethe uyawude utshintshe ithemba yinto ekhoya bemntwini.
Njengoba upresidenti ezothetha ingabe ndirhamile ubana akakhuphe utshintsho ubana kebuyeke le nto leyo kuthiwa xa ufuna umsebenzi kuthiwe kuphela ku-35 years iphele leyo leyo ngoba abantwana abo bana-35 years abanazo ne-experience ezi zomsebenzi uyabo thina bantu sinoma-14 nto asikwazi ukhwalifaya kuthiwa hayi le age yakuletha indalo ibingaske leyo into leyo ayitshintshe hayi sabona nje kusafana nje kusafana ingathi kuya kuba west kuzi njengoba okokoko saphatha hayi ingathi kuya kuba west andani noba barhuxela kubo ezindlini aba batsalela kubo kwelabo icala kuyafana andiboni mahluko ndake ndavota ngo-1994 kamba ngoku ndandivota uvuyo nandinalo uzawuphatha umntu omnyama njengoba sasicinezela ngamabhulu ndandisithi hayi into zizawutshintsha zange utshintsha nonesi khona ndibonayo atshintshapho kwakunangoku mani ephambili ndize ndiphangele ndifumane mhlawumbi ibroka se-engine ndingene nje kuzo ziphinde ziphele ngoku.
Welcome back. You are still watching Parliament TV, and we are coming to you live right here at the parade opposite the City Hall in Cape Town, where preparations for the State of the Nation address are underway. Now, committees are regarded as the engine of Parliament. This is mainly due to the fact that most of the work of Parliament takes place in the committee meetings. Committees also play a very important role in the process of building democracy and involving the public in the processes and activities of Parliament. To speak more on this and the work of committees in relation to the State of the Nation address, I am joined by the House Chairperson in the National Assembly responsible for committees and ICT, Mr. Cedric Frolik. Sir, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm thinking ICT as one of your responsibilities, and I'm looking at the past 5 years of Parliament with a lot of disruptions. You mentioned the fire and COVID, and that had to be very active for Parliament to function during that period. What's your reflection of the work that Parliament has done in the past 5 years in spite of the disruptions?
Yes, no, thank you very much. A very challenging period, but also it showed us the people in the institution who were there to respond to the challenges at the time. I can recall that with COVID-19 and the lockdown that was taking place and the need for Parliament to communicate with the people was severely impacted upon. And if it was not for the ICT and the Chief Information Officer, then we would have struggled to get our message across, but also to interact with members of Parliament to ensure that, one, legislation, the lawmaking process continues, oversight continue, and we had to deploy different solutions to respond to the challenge at the time. Our first virtual meeting that took place was in fact a briefing by the Minister of Health at the time, former Minister Zweli Mkhize, to the Portfolio Committee on Health. And that happened on a Good Friday evening at 6 o'clock, because the public and members of parliament were anxious to hear how the government is going to respond to the pandemic, what measures are being put in place, and what will happen next as far as the rollout of the PPEs are concerned, and if we are ensuring that the procurement processes are in place. So it was a very exciting period, but also a very challenging period.
Yeah. Generally, in terms of the work of committees, how do you think Parliament has fared in the past 5 years? I'm talking specifically with regards to oversight. There's been a lot of challenges, but also there is a phenomenon of oversight fatigue, where you have the local government, the provincial government, all going for oversight and so on and so on. How has Parliament fared with all these challenges?
There's still a lot of work that we need to do to synchronize the different oversight activities across the legislative sector. However, the last 5 years proved to be very testing for us, given the lockdown that was there, with the state of disaster that was declared due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But then also subsequent to that, the National Assembly committee rooms burned down. So we were restricted with space. Members of Parliament, a large percentage from the majority party, all of a sudden didn't have office space to work from. So that has been impacted upon. But we could also see the resilience once again for very innovative approaches. And with the 38 committees that I'm overseeing, I am confident that a lot of good work has been done. We've also moved towards, especially the last year, 2 years, with the state of disaster that was declared for the floods that occurred, where we could see the value of the National Assembly, the National Council of Provinces working together, but then our area that we must apply more and careful thought to is the role of your provincial legislatures when it comes to oversight, the role of local government, because you were there. We got to certain areas where people tell us it's the first time they have the opportunity to interact with their public representatives. Now, it shouldn't be the case that because Parliament has set up a committee, an ad hoc committee to go to a certain part of the country, that is the only opportunity for people to interact with their elected representatives. The elected representatives of the people are not only sitting in Parliament, they're also sitting in provincial legislatures, and they are sitting in local government. So that is where a lot of work that needs to be done, and the legislative sector oversight summit that took place last week here in Cape Town is one step towards a better synchronization of oversight. Otherwise, you'll have what is called oversight stampede. But we must also be mindful of mandates. The National Assembly has a specific mandate. So does the NCOP, your provincial legislatures, and your local government. But we need to deploy more resources to better manage the activities of elected public representatives in general.
Yep. Talking of the oversight summit that took place last week that you've just referred to, one of the things that came out there, I think I remember, was the fact that, that there are challenges with the oversight framework. For instance, I think it was passed or adopted in 2012. And the question that came out was whether it's still relevant or if it still serves the purpose 12 years later. What's your reflection on that framework to date?
I'm of the view that the oversight framework has provided for us a good platform to build on. But we must review it. Unfortunately, at the time when it was adopted, there was no mechanism built into it to say that after a certain period of time it must be reviewed. It's incumbent on us to review that framework and to make it more relevant to the current challenges that our people are facing. We're sitting with a huge youthful population, and we must ask ourselves if that framework speaks to the needs of the youth and how responsive we are. It's no longer the case where people want to wait weeks and months to get feedback on what they raise. They want everything to happen instantaneously. But we also need to ensure that there's quality assurance built into the process so that Parliament can give proper execution to its constitutional mandate.
Before I let you go, Mr. Frolik, before the dissolution of the Sixth Parliament, what can we expect from committee's perspectives to go into the legacy report that's been prepared?
The committees are currently busy finalizing their legacy reports. In that legacy report, they will reflect on the work they've done over the last 5 years. But they will also note outstanding issues. They will also indicate to exactly where they are with legislation that has been referred to it, because it's impossible to process I think it's almost 50 pieces of legislation in front of the NA and the NCOP. So it will be in that legacy report. So when the 7th Parliament come in, they can be able to pick up, use that document as a reference document to ensure that the committees in the 7th Parliament start on a sound footing.
Mr. Frolik, thank you very much and all the best as you prepare for 7 o'clock tonight for the State of the Nation by the President. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
That's Mr. Cedric Frolik, Chairperson of Chairs. They call him Chair of Chairs, responsible for committees and oversight in the NCOP, rather in the National Assembly. There's still a lot of to look forward to this afternoon here on Parliament TV. This afternoon, we'll be speaking to some key stakeholders, including leaders of Chapter 9 institutions, to discuss broader context, in broader context, the 30 years of democracy and policy implementation. Join us back live at 12 p.m. for more on the build-up towards the Sona 2024. Thank you very much.